Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and glad you're here, so come on in. We've got some interesting things on the plate today, including the first of what I hope becomes a regular feature. Perhaps more aptly, if not regularly occurring, I hope it at least frequently recurs. And to that end, I'm going to enlist your help. But that comes up in a little while. First, we go football. Yes, of course, but we're not going to spend much time on it today. The game isn't until next week. Last week, both of my picks won. But you know, in a season in which bizarre has become normal, now we have a new word, Deflategate. And surely you're familiar with it, so I'm not going to belabor it. The Steelers owner says it's easy to fix going forward, one set of balls for both teams, and it is how it used to be until 2006. Before then, as in other sports, the league provided the balls, one set for both teams. But a quarterback's relationship with a football is intimate. Something like it's smooth or rough, laces frayed or whatever. So superstars Peyton Manning and Tom Brady lobbied for a rule change that allowed each club to provide their own so that they could be personalized within the rules. Which is why, despite very much wanting to give him the benefit of the doubt, it is really hard to believe that Tom Brady didn't notice they were soft. Intimate relationship. Okay, I saw a newspaper article several weeks ago that I found fascinating, and I've wanted to bring it to your attention ever since, but since there were always a lot of other things going on, and also because this isn't intensely time sensitive, I put it on the back burner. But I want one of these. Want what? I want a transition. Yeah, a transition. Well, yes, I'd like to transition to more affluence and wouldn't mind a transition to being tall, but I'm speaking instead of a vehicle, a transition. It's right out of James Bond, except it's for real, with its anticipated entrance to the marketplace yet 3 years out. It is made by a company by the name of Terrafugia, or something like that, and here it is, flying at up to 100 miles per hour. But once you've reached your destination, or somewhere near your destination, or maybe the weather gets bad and you simply want to avoid the bad weather, you land, and then the wings fold in and it becomes a street legal vehicle. Top speed 70 miles per hour with room for two and their luggage. In my case, that might be golf clubs. All right. Had this been available when I lived in Atlanta, I would have tried to get one because I lived 10 minutes from the office at 5 in the morning, but at 5 in the afternoon it was 75 minutes. Okay, so it's like the fifth dimension, up and away, or maybe, remember Peter Pan? I'm flying, look at me way up high, suddenly here am I'm flying. Yeah, well, you can get in on the list for only a $10,000 deposit, which leaves only an estimated $269,000 due at delivery. Right, skip Neverland, go directly to Fantasyland. Nevertheless, if you wanted to check it out, go to driventofly.com. All right, I've mentioned a new feature and the curtain now goes up. There's no final decision yet on what we'll call this, although it was begat by the phrase that's used by stores and sports teams, Fan Appreciation Day. But we're at the other end of the looking glass. Not looking out toward the fans, but instead, fans looking in toward whomever. And yes, I think of person. The germ of this idea came to me years ago. At a celebrity golf tournament, I encountered Fred MacMurray, a very accomplished, fine actor from movies like The Caine Mutiny and Double Indemnity, and of course on television he was well known as the dad in My Three Sons. When I encountered him, he was in his 70s. I even heard him talking to his cart driver about his prescriptions, and I managed to tell him that I appreciated his work. Performers never tire of that, and I wanted to offer him my thanks for so many hours of pleasure of mine that he'd been responsible for, and he was very gracious. Now, the idea also evolved coalescing with a frequent twinge that I'd felt years before meeting Fred MacMurray. I was at a different golf tournament. It was populated with many celebrities. I played in this tournament. And at the day's end, hundreds of us ate a big barbecue dinner in a big barn. There was a band. And while eating, I sat across the table from Jay Silverheels, Tonto on The Lone Ranger. He was no longer acting and had a much smaller persona, and indeed a much smaller presence. But I knew who he was, and quite stupidly, I just sat there. I didn't say anything. I was just dumbstruck to be sitting across from such a heroic guy from my childhood. I have lots of regrets. One of the larger ones is that I didn't tell him how much I appreciated his work. And not too many years later, he died. So born of these couple different experiences, that's the idea. From time to time, before they leave us, I thought I would research on how to reach individuals whose work I've enjoyed, maybe those whose star doesn't shine so brightly anymore, and who in fact may not have so much time left. So for this first one I chose Noel Neill, who played Lois Lane for several years on The Adventures of Superman. After the series ended, she retired. She would make appearances from time to time on college campuses and cameos in some of the Superman films. But in 2010, she fell and broke her hip. Her very survival was in question. After some recovery, she moved from Arizona to Illinois. She's now 94. She no longer appears anywhere. I'm going to write her. And if you enjoyed her work, I'd suggest you consider doing likewise. Her address is Noel Neill, P.O. Box 181, Metropolis, Illinois, 62960. Yes, true. She moved to Metropolis. Now, looking forward to the future, if you've got suggestions for individuals whom you think ought to get an attaboy, hey, I really appreciated your work, send those suggestions to us, and we'll be back.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. For most of my adult life, I weighed a little over 100 pounds, not much more than in this picture taken when I was about 17 and considering becoming a jockey. But as is often true, once I crossed into my 40s, extra weight came and it stayed. For years I tried to lose, instead gained, and ended up 153 pounds. And I'm embarrassed to show you this video. Then I learned that it isn't about calories and exercise, but instead it's about what you eat. You might say, sure, ice cream makes you fat. But there were surprises, things like orange juice not being such a wise choice if you're trying to lose weight. So I just made some basic changes to what I ate, not how much, and the weight just fell off. Now, nearly 3 years later, it is still off. And don't misunderstand, I'm eating foods I like, not bamboo shoots. Friends ask me how I did it so often, I put it in a book. It's available as an ebook for all platforms, and the print edition is available at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Hey, you can shrink too.
You can send us those suggestions about whom to attaboy, or a final name for the fans' appreciation, or anything else at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. So, an announcement. Yes. All right, on previous shows I've mentioned Samka, the movie that I'm in. Well, it's still in pre-release, but it's getting close. But it's now up at the International Movie Database. Yes, imdb.com. And as happens, if you go there and search for Samka, the movie comes up. And as happens, if you go there and click around the cast, well, who knows where this leads? Who knows where this leads? Maybe when I'm 94, I'll get letters saying, I liked your work. I want to thank those who wrote to me about the music on last week's show. I'd said while introducing it, A Lover's Prayer, that I thought it might have wide resonance. Since the topic is one of universal emotion, some of the responses that I received were very touching. Thank you very much. Now, while the songs that I have featured here were performed by me, of course not last week, that was sung by Mary Lyon, I also perform a one-man show in which none of the music is mine. I arranged the songs, yes, but I didn't write any of them. The show is apropos to upscale restaurants and country clubs and corporate award ceremonies and conventions, the sort that have a dinner with a show. The show is called Dinner with the Rat Pack and More. And the full-scale version runs 90 minutes. Now, I don't do impersonations, but I do try to capture the spirit of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. by doing the songs that each of them made iconic. But we also try to capture the era when going out to dinner in style meant not only great food, but great entertainment. In other words, the era of the supper club. So while most of the music is of the Rat Pack, it's not limited exclusively to them. We throw in some other songs made famous by the giants of the time, like Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole, Bobby Darin, and others. So I thought it might be fun just to show you some samples, starting, of course, with the chairman of the board. As mentioned, we also do some outside of the pack. Route 66 was a hit for Nat Cole. And it's more than just music, it's a show. Sometimes there are contests, and other times we just clown around a bit, as in this one, a song made famous by Dean. All the dancers maybe on the floor. You got my eyes to see only you have that magic technique. When we sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of I mentioned restaurants and clubs, but it's been Rat Pack at the ballpark, at some different ballparks over the years. Here's a classic Sammy song. They heard the breeze from the trees, taking weird melodies, and they made that the start of the blues. Came from a jail, came away from a downhearted whale, and they made that a part of the blues. From a whippoorwill high on a hill, there came a new note. We said push him to a horn till it was born into a blue note. And then they nursed it and rehearsed it, and then they sent out the news that the Southland gave birth to the blues. From the whippoorwill high on a hill, there came a new note, which they pushed into a horn till it was born into a blue note. And then they nursed it and rehearsed it, and then they sang out the news that the Southland gave birth to the blues. Yes, the Southland gave birth to the blues. So, dinner with the Rat Pack and more. I hope you will consider it. Consider sharing and liking this episode too. And, you know, if you live next door to a restaurateur or a club manager or someone who has to book a show for a convention, or you're one of those, or if you're Steven Spielberg, write me at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com, or for management, write to tuesdayschild@triad.rr.com. That's it for this week, but I hope this upcoming week is the best one you've ever had.